Welcome everybody to the War and Peace Fantasy Podcast. I'm here today with Ray Estrada. I'm Alex Uy, and this is our first fantasy podcast ever, actually, of the season, of course. But we haven't really done anything quite like this before. We talk plenty of fantasy baseball, obviously, week to week, but this is a different animal right here. All fantasy, all the time, and I'm excited. Are you excited?
I'm excited.
Yeah, everybody's excited. All right. So this is.
Are you feeling it now, Mr. Krabs?
I'm feeling it. It's great. More SpongeBob references, please.
More SpongeBob references.
Always need more.
We need to do like one entire podcast just in all SpongeBob lines.
Fulfill our quota of SpongeBob references for the season.
Yeah.
So, so the format of this is, we're just getting our feet wet with this. We're still testing the waters here, but for this one anyway, are going to talk about some of the players that are off to hot starts and not so hot starts, and we are going to be talking about which players are here to stay and which ones we are going to keep away from. It kind of rhymes, right? I like it. Here to stay or keep away. I like it. All right.
Yeah, I actually like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, not too long. We're gonna be quick and to the point. Talk about some of these players and give you the information you need. So we'll go ahead and start with one of the more obvious ones, I think, is Sam Dyson. And he has been really, really bad to start the season. I think that's 3 consecutive blown saves in his first 2 chances. And, one of those was last night against the Angels, who came back again, down 3 runs in the 9th inning. And that was, Sam Dyson is on the hook for that one. But the Rangers bullpen situation obviously is not necessarily set in stone either with who's going to replace him in that role. So I want to ask you, are you keeping away from Sam Dyson? Because that's what everybody's initial reaction, I think, would be.
I mean, that is my initial reaction too. I'm going to keep away because when you look at what type of pitcher he is, he's not a strikeout pitcher. So, I mean, you saw this kind of with Jim Johnson when he started to lose his stuff. He was a pitch-to-contact closer. They can come back to decent form, but they're not going to be a dominant closer, I think, once you see him start to lose their edge with like if he was just missing strikeouts, then you would expect strikeouts to bounce back, but he's not that kind of pitcher, so I would keep away from him until he shows that he can really get his command back and get guys out.
Yeah, I would be absolutely shocked if he stayed in that closer role going forward. It's not out of the question that for him to actually return to that role, because a lot of the options behind him aren't that great. Matt Bush is probably the likely candidate. Mm-hmm. Really good stuff. Had a really good season last year, but he's a 2-pitch guy who can. I think the league might be starting to get on that fastball a little bit more. Starting to figure him out.
Yeah, and I think you wonder, he's never really pitched in a closer type role.
Oh, I don't care about that at all. Are you kidding me?
But I mean,
it's one of the stupidest arguments I hear is that he's never pitched in the 9th before. Like, what if he's got stuff to be in a major league bullpen and put up those kinds of numbers? Being in the 9th inning compared to the 8th or the 7th inning is not gonna phase a guy like that.
Yeah, I guess.
All right. I shut you down pretty quickly there. I hope you're doing all right there.
I'm doing fine.
Okay. It wasn't a personal attack on you. But,
okay.
Yeah, general consensus is move on from Sam Dyson for now, but I think don't necessarily turn to whoever's going to replace him in that Ranger bullpen.
Nope.
All right. Speaking of the team that pounded Sam Dyson yesterday, the Angels' Garrett Richards is another interesting player because going into the season was absolutely terrifying to a lot of people, but really obviously the same upside that he's had his whole career. The unorthodox recovery from with the stem cell plasma injections, and he is already on the DL. But one, he's on the DL with a biceps strain, and 2, with this new 10-day DL thing, I don't even know how long that's going to keep him sidelined. So there's a good chance he makes a start within the next 2 weeks even. And I think people are really overreacting by seeing him on the DL seeing that he is one of the most injury risk players going into the season, and they associate that, and they're like, boom, dropped. And I don't want to deal with that. Do you want to deal with that, though? Because all the upside's there. Is he here to stay, or are you going to keep away?
I'm going to lean slightly to here to stay because, like I said, it's not an elbow issue right now. So
right now,
it's
optimistic.
Right, yeah. So it's just a little bit of a bicep strain, but I mean, you look at his numbers from his only start, which he left. He went 4 2/3, gave it 3 hits, no earned runs, a walk, and 4 Ks. So his stuff looks like it's there after his, like you said, unorthodox rehab. So I wouldn't give up on him quite yet. If he is consistently hurt, then I don't think he's worth keeping around. But if he's going to put up similar numbers when he is on the field, I'd say keep him around.
Yeah, and I think at this point right now, like, Rich Hill's another one of those guys who, is already on the DL with the same old blister problems that he had last year. But a guy who, when he's on the field, is going to be really effective. I think that's a good comparison right there, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah?
That blister is nasty.
Yeah, that's one of the more visible things you can see, and I mean, you can't really pitch through something like that. I'm not saying it's his fault, but come on, like another blister problem.
No, I don't.
He's got to.
I don't know if you saw the picture from last year. It was. Oh,
I did.
Not widely circulated. That thing was nasty.
Yeah. He needs to get some new hand cream moisturizer stuff. I don't know what he's doing.
He needs to just soak his hand in moisturizer or whatever.
Soak it in moisture. Okay.
No, I don't know. Just stick it. That's his rehab. Just stick his hand in a tub of moisturizer. It's gonna get fixed.
Talk about unorthodox recoveries there.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So we'll. I guess we started off with the not so hot start players. So let's stay on that trend. Byron Buxton is off to probably about the worst start any Byron Buxton owner could possibly imagine. He has struck out 17 of his first 29 at bats. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, it's 17 out of
today
his
or whatever.
29.
But either way, even if that's not the exact number, that's not good. And there's a lot to like with Buxton, but we haven't seen it really. We saw it for a month last year, and I personally am gonna keep away. Because stolen bases are obviously a premium, and he is one of those stolen base guys. He's one of the fastest guys in all of baseball. But it seems like the Billy Hamilton conundrum, because Billy Hamilton, for most of his career, even probably now, I might be giving a little too much credit, just can't get on base enough to make it worthwhile. He hurts you in so many other places, and I feel like if you wait for Buxton to come around, you're gonna be doing too much damage to your team. It's not like he's just not a superstar. He's really hurting you if he's in your starting lineup. What are your thoughts on Buxton? I have been everywhere with Buxton. So
he's one of those, and I can't think of any examples off the top of my head right now, but who excel at Double A, Triple A, but then once they get to the majors, it's not even like he's a head case or whatever. It's just he just doesn't perform, and I mean, he's a worse version of Billy Hamilton, essentially. Like you said, I mean, Billy Hamilton hurt you in other areas. He doesn't get on base enough, but he still steals 60 bags a year.
I mean, Buxton can do that, but you have to get on base to steal bases. You have to get on first base.
Exactly. He's 2 for 29 with, like you said, 17 strikeouts. He was benched today, but so he's gotten on 3 times. He does a walk and a strikeout, and 2 hits, sorry, and he still has 0 stolen bases. Like I said, he's a freak athlete, but he just doesn't get the counting stats in the show that will warrant anything close to picking him up. So he's still 52% owned, and that's after a 20% drop. I don't know what over 70% of ESPN owners felt that he was going to be.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of optimism with the rest of the skill set, and there's a lot of safety in stolen bases normally, but not necessarily enough to support that, with these types of these types of numbers. You can find your stolen bases in other places. One of those places might be with the Diamondbacks' Chris Owings, because he really was nothing special last year. And, he has shortstop and center field eligibility right now. He looks like he settled into a more consistent role with that team and is able to, put up some pretty nice numbers, at least to start the season. Not superstar numbers by any means, but he's stealing bases, he's running, he can hit for a little bit of power, and he's hitting in a great hitter ballpark. Do you think he's here to stay, or are you going to keep away from Chris Owings?
For right now, I would say I'd ride the wave of Chris Owings. The thing about hot hitters is that you kind of want to catch them when they're hot, when they're on the uptick, and if they stay consistent, then that's a huge plus. But then if he drops off, then you can just easily drop him. I would definitely go after Owings, especially if you have a need in the middle infield area.
Yeah, I would say good fill-in player, good in that capacity, good bench player, especially because of that dual eligibility. Yeah, he'll do some things for you. I think he's an interesting one to watch. That entire Diamondbacks lineup really is one of those. Is just one of those things that I'm looking at like every day now, just because they have a lot of players that I like a lot, but I'm not sure what's going to happen with them. Like David Peralta is another one of those guys.
Yeah, Brandon Drury is having a really nice start to his year. He was a pleasant surprise on one of my teams. But like I said, I dropped him as a bench guy, and you wonder how much he's going to actually carry that on to the season.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think he's one of the first ones that we said, we're not scared of. So I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's different with hitters in terms of than pitchers. Really,
I don't think. I think the difference is that pitchers were more fearful of injury risk in general.
Yeah.
Than hitters, obviously, but then hitters can really hurt you. You only have.
But I think hitters. I think hitters are more interchangeable than pitchers. Not saying that you can just wheel and deal with hitters, but like you can pick up a guy to supplement your offense, and then if he starts to slump or reverts back to what everybody thought he would do, it's easier to drop that than a pitcher, and then pick up a equally an equivalent player.
Yeah, pitching is really, really thin this year. That's what I've noticed so far.
Pitching is very
even the top
thin.
end pitchers. I mean, obviously it's early, but so far, even the top end pitchers haven't been all that good, and it's really making it even thinner. And that conversation is getting a lot trickier. Yeah, but on that note, we'll move on to our next guy, who is also a pitcher, actually a closer, and his name was one of the most popular names in all of baseball. Greg Holland for the Kansas City Royals. He was part of that big trio that won the World Series with them. But now he's pitching in Colorado. I don't even know if a lot of people noticed that, but he is leading the league in saves right now, and he has not given up a run yet, or a hit yet, for that matter. So I'm not exactly sure how much longer that's going to keep up. I'm willing to bet that Greg Holland does, in fact, give up a hit this season. But, other than that, I like him a lot just because of the track record. I think a lot of people are worried about injuries, but I'm done predicting injuries with this guy. Like, it could happen at any point where he could, have a season-ending injury. But, I think the stuff plays well enough to get saves. He's not an elite closer, though. He's not going to be the Greg Holland of his Kansas City Royals days. Pitching in Coors Field doesn't really help with that. What are your thoughts on Greg Holland?
Like I said, he's just got pure stuff, really. Like I said, I mean, Coors Field he's not going to keep these numbers up in Coors Field necessarily, but I mean, like I said, injury risk, you're not too concerned about that. I'm
a little concerned, but I'm not.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's nothing like. From my memory, he was never like consistently always off the field. It was Tommy John, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just one of those cases where it was just a really long, tenuous like rehab process.
Yeah, but the stuff plays anywhere. I mean, stuff plays anywhere. Coors Field, not as much, but no, he's a solid investment at this point. I don't know what there is not to like about him at this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean,
even going forward, I mean, he's going to give up his fair share of hits and runs at Mile High, but I think he's a solid investment.
Yeah, I mean, job security is another thing. Like, I'd take him over, Matt Bush or Jeremy Jeffress of the Rangers for sure.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
In general, I don't like Coors Field closers. I've never owned Adam Ottavino, even though I like his stuff, but I'm not gonna do it personally. So I guess I just answered that. Like, personally, I'd say keep away. But if you need saves, you need saves. Pick him up. He's a good option for that. Yeah, so here's another. This is the last pitcher we're going to talk about. This is Amir Garrett of the Reds. And he really, considering he's one of the top prospects in that organization and, one of the top prospects in baseball, really did not get a lot of consideration to start the season off, even though he started the season in the rotation for the Reds. Like, we talk about all these young pitchers for all these teams, and we speculate on whether they're going to get a spot. He had a spot, and he is doing some really nice work with it so far. Had two starts now. I think he went 7 innings in both of them, if I'm not mistaken.
He went 6 and 6 2/3.
6 and 6 2/3. Okay.
Yeah.
That's for a young pitcher. That's basically a complete
That's
game.
solid for your first 2 starts.
Because this is. I think it's more interesting when you look at the profile of this pitcher. Lefty guy who is basically a strikeout dominating pitcher. Not your. He's basically your prototypical young strikeout upside pick, but I like seeing these signs of him being efficient with his pitch count and getting deeper into games, not necessarily striking out as many batters. Obviously, we want to see the big strikeout numbers, but it's refreshing to see that, because I am really tired of seeing young pitchers all over the place, like Blake Snell, like Tyler Glasnow, and guys like that, like Giolito even, that can really rack up plenty of strikeouts. Vince Velasquez is the perfect example of this.
Yeah.
Struck out 10 over 4 innings with the Phillies in his first start. But
he did that last year too, didn't he? He struck out double digits, and
I think he
was never really good the rest of the year.
Yeah, he set some records.
It was like 16 or something.
Times. Oh, that was a complete game. But yeah, I'm talking about just guys that are striking out a lot of batters, using up a lot of pitches early on, and not getting into the 5th inning. Like, it's great. Get your strikeouts, get your value there when you can. But
and then they pitch to the tune of a 4.5 ERA, which isn't good either.
You're not going to get wins. You're not going to get quality starts, and you're not going to get reliability from a guy that's, walking a lot of batters and throwing a lot of pitches. And, at least Amir Garrett's shown that he is capable of settling in to a big league setting where he can be efficient. And I think that's going to pay dividends for him. The strikeout stuff is still there, and he will amass enough strikeouts, if he stays in that starter role. So I guess the final question here is he here to stay, or are you going to keep away?
I say he's here to stay, because looking at his highlights, like you said, he certainly has the stuff to strike guys out, but he looks confident on the mound for a guy who's only made his debut this last week, and like I said, he's not chasing strikeouts. He's not forcing anything. He's throwing the ball up, and if they strike out, they strike out. But they're hitting a lot of ground balls and a lot of pop-ups. So if he sticks in that mindset, he's here to stay.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit easier for me to say here to stay, just because the rest of the major league pitching right now seems really weak. Like, I'm gonna take him over a guy like Jeremy Hellickson, who was really good last year and has not been awful this year. But it's just there's guys like that aren't very impressive, but might be considered safer, aren't what I'm looking for. Like, I mean, they're nice to have, but when you have a guy like this on the waiver wire, absolutely take him. That's just how I feel. I'm very trigger happy with young pitchers in general, and this is a particularly fascinating one for me anyway.
Yep.
Let's get into your area of expertise here. I'm sure you've given your Yasiel Puig pitch many times. You mind giving us one more go at it? Another decently hot start, or I say that, but he had 2 hits over the weekend.
Yeah.
Yasiel Puig can hit the Padres. Newsflash. Give me your take on Yasiel Puig going forward.
He's not going to be. It's kind of the same tune, but he's not going to be the world beater. But what I've seen from him so far this year, I don't whether it was the demotion to the minors or whatever has gone on behind the scenes. He looks like he's in a different mindset. He's not trying to force anything yet, at least. But he's got 3 home runs this year. Granted, all of them are against the Padres so far, but he's hitting the ball pretty solid. Only 259 average still, but I feel like if he stays healthy all year, he'll have what I think would be his average year. He'll bat 260, 270, hit maybe 15 to 20 home runs. That's what I feel is his range, and I think people will freak out and say, "Oh, that's not what they signed him for." But that's what he's turned into. He's that kind of player. He's not necessarily a superstar in terms of offensive production, but I think he can be a very solid player if he stays on the field.
Yeah, and I can't assume that a guy like Yasiel Puig is going to stay on the field. His hamstrings are paper mache, so that is definitely worth factoring in there. I'm tired of Puig being a superstar. I'm tired of all that conversation.
I'm tired of people holding that expectation for him.
Look, have you seen the guy? He's freaking Adonis out there.
He can be. I think I don't know. I think people need to stop looking at him to produce, and he should just be I don't know how to say it, but
well, the thing is, he hasn't even settled into the role of being a consistent player. Do that first.
That's the biggest thing. You're right.
Yeah. So for me, I still think I'm staying away from Puig just because there's a lot of really nice outfield options out there. We mentioned one of them. I would rather have Chris Owings than Yasiel Puig.
That's fair.
Yeah.
You like the flexibility of him too.
I like the flexibility. I like the ballpark. I like a lot of things about Chris Owings. And I like a lot of things about a lot of other outfielders out there. Even some of the other guys that are being dropped. Puig is one of the more added players, and I would even probably consider some of the most dropped outfielders over him. Still, Keon Broxton, I would take over Puig any day. I would take Inciarte over him. I would take, why is Rajai Davis on this most dropped list? Rajai Davis is a really good baseball player, and he's going to steal a lot of bases in Oakland. He hits for a little bit of power. There's nothing not to like about Rajai Davis year in and year out, but just can't seem to win the people over. He's not liked by the people. He needs to do something about that, or not. I guess. If Rajai Davis is out there for me, I'll take it. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and talk about one more player here. I think we have time for. Mike Napoli is another guy off to a very, very cold start. But I kind of bring him up just to kind of talk about this whole conversation of track record of older players and how much you trust that. Do you think Mike Napoli is here to stay, or are you going to keep away?
This is a hard one because he's on my team. So, I'm going to say here to stay, but again, temper expectations. He's not going to be the guy who was last year who hit 34 home runs he did.
Why not? Can you give me a reason for that?
Like you said, he's an older player. Change the scenery. It's his third stint with Texas, and he's been a solid player. But like I said, his track record hasn't been hitting 34 home runs every year. That was a career high last year. So
yeah,
you can look to him to hit 20 to 30 home runs once he gets going. And again, with these power hitters, they often get off to slow starts. It's either they rip off a bunch of home runs in a row or they slump early in the season, it seems.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think that's just the way of saying power hitters are very streaky players, and
yeah,
that is what it is. The numbers near the end of the season tend to be pretty much what you'd expect them to be. But I think Mike Napoli is one of those players where the track record is not necessarily accurate because we learned that he was having a lot of trouble with the sleep apnea, and
yeah,
that's a really big factor because it affects your day-to-day performance. Even though you're in the lineup, like you're just not the same. And there was a clear difference in his performance last year based on a clear change in his overall health and his overall well-being. And I think age isn't enough of a factor to scare me. Like, Mike Napoli is not a fragile player. And I still think he can hit 30 home runs for you easily in Texas, especially because of that ballpark.
Yeah.
And he's not really being challenged over there for that first base job. I guess, Texas is really, really crowded. Just from a fantasy aspect, from a regular, just straight up baseball aspect. I think Joey Gallo and Jurickson Profar are two guys that just cannot find a home no matter what they do. And Gallo hit a couple really long home runs, and everybody is really excited about him, as they always are whenever he hits a ball fucking 600 feet. But I just don't see any outcome this season where Gallo gets 400 at bats even. Like, I just don't see that happening. Texas is just full of guys who need to get traded. That's basically what I've decided is clear it out, Texas. Like, come on.
That's a fair assessment. Like, there's no huge stars in Texas. There's a lot of solid guys, which is why they crowd fantasy rosters. I mean, most every guy on the roster is worth a look for some type of role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, not bad players, but just not secure players.
No, and like I said, nobody who is a bona fide superstar necessarily.
Oh, I mean, you have guys that are obviously going to be owned. Like Adrian Beltre is going to be owned.
Adrian Beltre,
Jonathan Lucroy should be owned in every
Jonathan
league.
Lucroy,
I don't.
Elvis Andrews
he's solid, but he's not in the same category.
He had a really good year last year, and he's off to a solid start this year.
Again, like he's one of those guys, you know what you're getting, but he's not a top 100 player or like top 100 offensive player like Beltre and Lucroy tend to be. So I think that's a good place to stop in our little segment of Here to Stay or Keep Away. I think that was a nice little way to start off the 2017 fantasy podcast, and I think that would be a good place for us to wrap things up. Again, these things are going to be pretty brief. We're going to get straight to the point and give you the news you want to know. And going forward, we do really want to get a Q&A type segment going on this show, and I will have more information about how you can give us questions on a weekly basis and the types of questions we're looking for, obviously. And I really just want to spend a lot of time answering questions on the show. It makes it a lot more fun when the advice you're giving is actually being translated directly into somebody's team, and you're given advice that matters, and it'd be a big difference. So please, go for it.
Well, kind of right now, like you guys listening can tweet at us. The main question you can ask a keep away, Here to Stay or Keep Away question to us, either at our Twitter account at WPB_podcast, or any of our personal Twitter accounts, mine being at Stingray417. So send us Twitter questions. We'll let you know if there's other ways that you can send us questions in. But just any general fantasy questions, Here to Stay, Keep Away. Those type of questions.
Yeah, Twitter for sure is the best place to do that. Any questions you have, any feedback you have would be very much appreciated as well.
And like I said, it's this little fancy focused podcast is going to be every Thursday we're going to be doing it Wednesday nights. So just get your questions ready and send them in, and we're going to answer as much as we can, and as best we can.
Yeah, and we'll try to turn out some new fun segments as we go along.
Yeah,
but questions, that's the big one for us. We really want to get that going. So thank you all for joining us. Links to all of our social media and our website are down below in the description. Remember to subscribe on YouTube and iTunes to see all the new weekly podcasts as soon as they come out. So that is all.